When it comes to pulling for new units in Opera Omnia, there are two schools of thought that come to mind. Pulling favorites or pulling for meta. Should you go 100% favorites or should you pay attention to the units who perform best in the game? It's a very interesting question and I think it's a case-by-case scenario, but I do think there's good arguments for both sides. For example, with the meta units, a good reason to go for them would be because they're good investments. Pulling for a unit and building a unit takes a lot of resources. If you decide to build a good meta unit, you're likely to end up using that unit to clear a bunch of different forms of content to where the rewards you get from that unit exceed that of what you use to build them. That's why I call it a good investment, because with meta units, it's easier to clear content. Beating missions means getting more rewards. Getting more rewards means that you're able to pull for even more units. In my opinion, it's a good idea for new players because it helps build a reliable starting roster. That's one piece of advice that you're going to be hearing from a lot of older players. Get a unit for each role. Pulling for meta units doesn't mean that you're going to use them all the time. However, in certain scenarios, fights are a lot more restrictive on who you can use in your party. Having a good meta unit or two can help relieve that stress. And also, inadvertently, pulling meta units can actually help you get more use from your favorite units. If you had a favorite unit and it wasn't necessarily the best unit in the game, if you had a meta unit to go along with that in your party, that in turn will allow more usage from your favorite unit while also being able to clear harder content. It goes hand in hand. You don't necessarily pull for the meta unit just for the unit alone, but also perhaps the support and help it brings to the rest of the team. Apart from what a lot of people might say regarding meta units, I do still think that they have a level of importance and you should consider it to a degree. On the other side of the coin, here are some reasons to pull for favorite units instead. First things first, it's more fulfilling overall to build and use them. When Noctis came out, was he the best unit in the game? Absolutely not. But Final Fantasy 15 was one of the games that I had a special connection to. Noctis being viable again at that time, I used him in virtually every single fight. I used him a lot, and even though he wasn't the best meta-wise, using him for so long was so much fun, and it was really satisfying to be able to clear content with him. Furthermore, Shinryu isn't as restrictive as previous eras. For example, the Chaos era, you really needed to focus on meta. Shinryu, thankfully, isn't that bad, to where pulling for meta units isn't as important as it was before. 9 times out of 10, if you have a favorite unit in the game, you're more likely than not are able to make do with it. The third reason would be if you really like using a favorite unit in every single fight you can do, it provides you a good challenge and it gives you an opportunity to problem solve. Rather than pulling a unit on a banner and using that unit for your Shinryu fight, it's more of a challenge to use your old favorite unit and see what you can do with that boss. It'll make you find different ways on how to use your favorite unit to beat the game. And if you do eventually problem solve and manage to beat it, that's just overall way more fulfilling to me as a gamer, rather than just using the designated unit for that fight. And all in all, whenever you pull and use favorite units, the game is just more fun. Just because a unit is technically meta does not mean it's the most fun unit in the game. Jack Garland, he's still one of the best FR units in the game. He's still one of the best attackers in the game. Is he one of the most fun units in the game? Absolutely not. He is completely brain dead. All you do is ooga booga, press his skill, the enemy is dead. That is all that's in his kit. Is that the most fun and fulfilling unit to play for every single gamer? Not even close. I have way more fun using other DPS units that might not necessarily be as good as Jack Garland, but they have unique parts of their kit to where it's more refreshing when I play them. I'll be honest, Jack Garland is indeed one of the strongest characters in the game, but a reason why I don't use him more is because he's just boring. It's the same case with other top tier units like Luna Freya or Charlotta. Yeah, they're one of the best support units in the game, but their playstyle and the way they function, it's just so redundant and so rudimentary at this point. I more or less use support units that aren't as good as them. Using meta units all the time is boring, and if you opt to use your favorite units instead for clearing bosses, it's just gonna be a much better time for you. Now that we've covered both sides, let's get to the age-old question. Favorites or meta? Which should you focus on? For newer players, I actually think pulling on meta units is a good idea. Like I said before, one of the biggest things that you should focus on as a new player is to build your roster. Make sure you have a good attacker, good support unit, good healer, and a good tank, etc. I don't think it's smart at all to go 100% for favorites right out of the gate. I've had many people who straight up refuse to pull on anyone besides a specific future unit, and that unit being 2 months into the future. They weren't gonna pull on anyone besides that unit. It's crazy, I know, but you'd be surprised how many people say that. You know, for example, Shinryu just started. Kain is out. I had a new player come on the Discord server and ask for help, and they specifically said, I'm not pulling anyone until Luna Freya.
Stop it. Get some help.
I was so mind-boggled. They were completely adamant on not pulling anyone until they came out. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. You can do what you want to do, of course. You should always be able to have the freedom to do what you want to do. However, don't expect to be clearing any missions anytime soon before then. That's kind of what I said to him. I don't think you should go just 100% for your favorites right out of the gate as a new player. I'm not saying you shouldn't pull on your favorites. If you love a character, pull on the character right out. That should be your only consideration. For older and more veteran players, this is obviously going to be an easier answer for you. Once a good roster is built for the current era that you're in, a lot more focus can be given to pulling for favorite units. For example, for me, I already had a good roster. My roster was poppin', it had all the good DPS units, it had all the good tanks, it had all the good supports. However, I was a bit bored with the people that I had, so I decided to green someone else who wasn't necessarily meta. I built Celeste. She is damn fun to use, I'm not gonna lie. I love using her, and she is a hoot. I do not regret building her one bit. Once you have a good roster already, meta becomes a lot less necessary, and you have a lot more freedom as to who you can pull for. Be in mind, you'll need to update your roster whenever a power creep comes every now and then, but overall, as a more veteran player, you can focus a lot more on favorites. So that is my personal take on favorites or meta. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye!